30 something years old and tired of hanging out with 16-year-olds all day at a skate park for my job.
The Broken Spoke Podcast, Episode 1. Adam Taylor, aka Fat Tony. This episode has been sponsored by ZZ Designs. More information in the description or at the end of the video. So you saw the ceiling and you were thinking about what else can I do? And then you do architecture photography now. How was that transition? Was it like, did you get tired of BMX, or did you get tired of traveling and hustling this much, or was it more like a combination of those both? Like you want to like settle down and not hustle so much, or?
Good question. So it was a couple of things. Nowadays, when I talk to other people, like for instance, in my industry, and I kind of give them the short background version of my story, I always joke that, I was 30 something years old and tired of hanging out with 16-year-olds all day at a skate park for my job. And there is some truth to that, but, essentially I was losing the passion for it, which I never thought would be possible, but eventually it just started to fade. And I started to find other things like CrossFit that I was, excited about and interested in and wanted to put my time and energy into. And there was a couple of like kind of catalyst moments as well that similar to the job at the ride, where it's like, okay, like this is my sign that it's time to leave. Right. And when I did decide to leave, I didn't jump in straight away to architecture photography. I had a couple of years period where I call it my floundering around time, where I didn't really know what I was doing and I was trying a bunch of different things. Luckily, I didn't have a family at the time. I owned a condo in Long Beach, California. My mortgage was pretty low and I had a roommate helping offset that cost. And so I didn't have a lot of expenses, right? Like my car was paid off. Like I had pretty low overhead. And so I didn't need to make a ton of money. So it kind of gave me the freedom to, do a bunch of random things and try to figure it out. But one of the first things I did when I worked my way out of the BMX industry is I thought that I wanted to shoot for real estate agents because, again, this is similar to the mindset of like when I started graphic design school, where I had zero direction and just like had a little pea brain thought in my mind that like sent me down this path. My thought was, I really like big, nice houses, but I can't afford one of my own. So if I take pictures of them, then at least I get to hang out in them. So I'm living in Southern California where there's a lot of big, nice houses. And I'm thinking, okay, real estate agents are the people that would hire me to shoot these big, nice houses. And so I started shooting for real estate agents, but it didn't take long for me to realize that most of the houses that I was going to shoot were not the big and nice ones. And also I wasn't able to make like pretty artistic photos. And I essentially had to kind of get in and get out as quick as possible and just, make the room look big. And, it wasn't very artistic or creative like I thought it would be. And so I was like, damn, like that's not what I thought I was signing up for. Like, crap, like back to the drawing board. Like, now what do I do? And during that time, there was like a bunch of really random stuff, right? Like I had a kind of a general website up on the internet. So people would randomly find me. So I did stuff like, shoot the Formula One race that went through downtown Long Beach for one of the car race sponsors. I had another electric charging station company for like electric vehicles contact me to like shoot a photo of a car in front of an electric charging station for an ad that they needed to do. One of my contacts through the BMX world, who used to like run part of the Mongoose program, he was now in charge of marketing at some other company, and he hired me to come out and like, do a couple of events and stuff here and there. So, I was kind of just all over the place. And then I picked up this random side gig where I was working for like this startup company, and I had to like test drive for Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and all these different things to collect data to get their startup company some information. And I did a bunch of random shit, right? Long story short, 2016, got engaged. My wife got at that time fiance, now wife, got pregnant. Beginning of 2017, as my wife's pregnant, getting ready to have a baby, that's when I'm like, crud, I need to figure out like what I'm really going to do to like support this new family of mine. So what am I going to do? And I started looking for full-time jobs at that point, more of like creator positions, doing photo and video and that kind of stuff for different brands. And at that same time, a connection of mine that was an owner of a tile manufacturing company. He just so happened to go to the same CrossFit gym that I went to. We knew each other from the gym. I had done like one or two photo shoots for him at a house where his tiles were installed in his house. He saw that I was looking for work, and he's like, hey, I see you're looking for work. Like, how can I help you out? And that conversation, long story short, ended up being basically a 3-year kind of like salary retainer type relationship where I worked like roughly 30 hours a week, um, made my own schedule, and got like $5,000 a month. So I basically had like a $60,000 a year like base salary working for this company to shoot architectural photos of these tiles and bricks and pavers installed in residential homes, commercial buildings like hotels and restaurants and bars and offices and different things like that. And that's where I really realized that when I wanted to start shooting photos of big, nice houses and make cool, beautiful, artistic photos, that's what I really wanted to do was like architectural images, because real estate photos and architectural photos are very different, even though they look similar on the surface. And so working with this tile company, it allowed me to realize that, other types of companies need artistic photos of places like contractors, architects, interior designers, product companies like tile manufacturers. Like these are the people that need those kind of photos that I want to shoot. And now I'm getting paid a good little salary to learn how to get better at them. And so for 3 years I did that. And that's kind of like what really helped me carve my little niche into what I'm doing now.
That's pretty interesting how that worked out. And like, because it wasn't a plan. It just kind of like, you want to do this, and then this opportunity came about. But that leads me into a question: was how important were making connections for your career and for your growth? Was that like the number one driver, or was it more like hustling or your portfolio?
Both. Yeah. Portfolio, not as much. The hustle and the connections, it kind of goes together, right? So I've always been pretty big on putting myself out there, and I think that can be a pro and a con, but it is part of my personality. And this kind of goes back to part of what put me on probation when I worked at Ride, and like why I wasn't a good fit for the guys that worked at that company, and maybe other people in the BMX industry, is that I have always put myself out there. Like I've never been shy about self promotion or putting myself out there. And so I think getting the job at Ride was a product of me putting myself out there. I would send out like self promotional materials to like 30 bike companies before I got out of college, just to like let people know, like, hey, I'm out here doing what I can. I exist. Like, here's some of my work. Like here's this little magazine thing I put together. Here's this event we're putting on. Like, check out what we're doing. Like I was always kind of waving my hands and like, hey, somebody look at me. I'm doing stuff. I'm trying. And so that kind of helped me get the job at Ride, I think. And then similarly with that opportunity with the tile company is essentially the reason we got connected is because I was looking for jobs, on LinkedIn and Indeed and all these job websites, and a couple of them said that they were specifically looking for an employee that could make viral Facebook videos for their company. And I was like, I kind of have an idea of what they're after, but I've never made one of those. And so I took that idea and I made what I called my video resume. So I essentially made a video kind of like telling a little story about myself and my career and what I've done for other companies, put that up on Facebook. And I just put a simple caption that said, I'm about to be a dad and I need a job, so please share. And like overnight, it got like, it didn't go viral, but it got like 25,000 views and 150 comments. And, it caught traction pretty quick just overnight. And the owner of the tile company, again, a friend of mine from the CrossFit gym, he was on my Facebook page and saw that post. And so he's the one that reached out and he's like, hey, I saw your post. Like, you're looking for some steady work. I'm looking for somebody to create content. I've got these photo shoots I need done. I want to start making some YouTube videos. Like, how can we work together? Right. And so I think it was a combination of putting myself out there and letting people know that I'm what I want and what I'm trying to do. And then the connections that maybe they weren't a super close connection, but they were close enough that they at least saw me wave my hands over here, and that's how it was able to kind of meld the connection with the hustle, I think.
When I talk to a lot of people say like just asking is important because it can get you out there. Would you say like your connections and the job coming to you, or was it more like asking, like you ask the brand to do this or you send them stuff? So
no, it was definitely me reaching out and asking, like, again, with Ride, for example, or I, got a call from Keith asking if I wanted to be interviewed for the magazine, or interviewed for the job position. I was, sending photos to their website. Like before I got the job there, their copy editor was updating their website once a month or something. And I saw that as an opportunity. And I was like, hey, I'm shooting photos of just my friends. They're not pros, but got a couple of decent photos. how about I send you guys photos whenever I have them? You can post them on your website for free. And they were like, cool, we don't have website content anyway. Like it's not being updated. Sure, we'll use your photos of your friends in the backyard. And then it was like, okay, well, cool. We're going to Texas to a contest and there are some pros there. So let me shoot a few photos of this contest and write up a little report about it. Hey, will you guys put this on the website? You don't have to pay me, but put it on the website, you know? I'm like, hey, sure, free content. Why not? Like the photos are crappy, the article is subpar, but it's free. Why not? You know? And so it was me reaching out saying like, hey, I'm doing this stuff. Like I'm putting on this event. Can you come shoot photos of it? I'm shooting photos. Can you use them for free? Like that kind of thing.
It's more like I can do this for you, and then like that is I see a lot of times where people a lot of times they just like ask for stuff for free, but that's like ask, maybe give them something for free to build a connection, and they will reach out
Totally.
for you. And
Yeah, totally. And here's the other thing. Like I remember going as far as like, again, their copy editor is the one that updated the website, right? And this was before WordPress. Like it was pretty cumbersome to update the site. So I emailed him directly and was like, hey, Dave, can you tell me step-by-step instructions of what I can do to make your job as easy as possible so that when I send you a text file, you don't have to do any weird formatting. When I send you photos, they're already sized and formatted exactly how you need them, right? That way, it just lowers the barrier of entry. It lowers the friction because if I send them to a busy guy that's got, 4 magazines to copy edit and then his website updating stuff is just like on the back burner, well, if he has to do a bunch of formatting now to photos and text and stuff, well, now it's like pushed off to the side. But if he gets it in and all he has to do is like pop it in because it's ready to go, well, now I have a lot better chance of getting those images in an article published, right? And so I did everything I could to like, just glide on in there with as little friction as possible.
so this was a strategic move. You wanted to get your photos out there in magazines, but you also wanted to work for a magazine company. So you were doing two things at once. And
Yeah, I mean, again, back then it was kind of like you have to be everywhere. Like you're not going to make a lot of money either way. So yes, I was sending stuff to Ride, but I was also sending a different set of photos to Ride UK and saying, hey, will you put this in the magazine or whatever? Um, and yeah, so it was like you just kind of put it out wherever you can.
I just have just a few more questions, but now with your job now, there's no BMX at all, but you still have the passion for photography. Do you ever like, miss the days traveling in BMX, or are you just all, focused on what's next in the future, or focused in the present?
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I left BMX behind as well is I did get tired of the constant travel. So for about 7 years, I traveled anywhere from like 100 to 200 days out of the year. And eventually I got to the point where I wanted a dog and I wanted to have a girlfriend because when you're traveling that much, it is impossible to keep a relationship going. And so I did feel like I wanted to quote unquote settle down. So I first got the dog, then I met the girl, we fell in love, got engaged, she got pregnant, we got married, now we have a kid, right? And so I don't miss traveling for work. These days, I do travel for work from time to time, mostly just to the other islands. I'm on Oahu in Hawaii, and I do shoots on the Big Island, Maui, Kauai. Every once in a while on the mainland, like last year, I had a shoot in LA. But if I could just stay on my island and never leave and make the same amount of money, I would do that because leaving my child and my wife behind, I hate it. So, I don't want to travel for work anymore. I love traveling with them. We typically take 2 or 3 vacations a year, like 2 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks in the winter, and like maybe a week during Thanksgiving. Um, and so any traveling that I do now, I want it to be with them and building family experiences and stuff. And when I do travel now, I rarely, bring my real camera and, I still love photography, but if I have my real camera, meaning my, Canon digital, mirrorless, whatever, my professional camera, as opposed to just my iPhone, well, now I'm juggling two different things, family and hobbies, right? And I would rather just focus all my attention on the family. And so if I have my camera with me, it's taking time away from my family and or attention, right? Because if I'm thinking about shooting photos or going out to shoot photos, less time I'm focusing on the family. And so I try to keep them pretty separate. Although one of our favorite places to go is Bali. And I do like to bring my camera to Bali because we stay in some pretty cool villas that I can kind of shoot architectural photos, which does two things. it keeps me at the house and I can shoot photos like where we're staying instead of having to leave to go take photos. So I'm not actually leaving the family really. Um, B, it also gives me content. So I can shoot photos at the villa that we're staying at in Bali, use it in my, Instagram for my work account, put it in my weekly email blast that I send out to potential clients. And now I've shot, taken architectural photos and created content while I'm traveling. So now I can write off part of the trip as a tax write-off.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. You travel a lot for those years, but did you travel to everywhere you wanted to go? I think in one interview you said you wanted to go to Africa. Did you make it to Africa?
I've been to Africa a few times. I went with a good friend of mine to Rwanda, Burundi, and Kenya, kind of like a just personal exploration trip of, we went on safari and we stayed with locals in their kind of like mud huts and went to orphanages and churches and refugee camps and like had this really kind of like deep emotional experience, like kind of, being with people that are not as fortunate as we are, which was extremely eye-opening, perspective-changing, life-changing kind of thing. And then I also went to Cape Town, South Africa, just by myself because I wanted to go see some great white sharks. So I did like the shark cage dive to see great whites out there.
Oh yeah, you did say you wanted to go see great white sharks in the interview. So that's pretty awesome. You got to travel everywhere you wanted to go, and now you're kind of settling down with the family and stuff. Just before we end things up, I want to ask what do you see your future as? Do you look at 5-10 years? Is it still in architecture photography and just?
Yeah, good question. So prior to, I would say before 2020, I had never looked at my quote unquote job as a career. I did have a career in BMX, but it was more just like I'm a bike rider that takes pictures and videos of bike riders. Like that was kind of my mindset. And then when I sort of had that floundering around time after that, it was, I don't want to get a real job and I want people to pay me to take pictures. What can I take pictures of that people will pay me for? Right. Like that was the mindset. Mm-hmm. And now starting in 2020 and leading up to now, we're in 2026. I truly view what I do now as a career and a career path, which is very exciting to me. And I think I'm at the beginning of my career path. So even though I started technically doing what I'm doing 9 years ago, I still feel like I'm in the beginning of this career, meaning the ceiling as I look up is way up there, financially and otherwise in the craft of just how good I can get, how much I can do, the kind of projects I get to shoot, the kind of clients I get to work with, quality of work that I can produce, like all that kind of stuff. There is no ceiling. Like it's endless in my eyes right now. And so, I look at what I'm doing now as actually building a career. And so, yes, I want to get better at shooting photos. I want to shoot cooler projects. I want to make more money with this. But also, I kind of have a second component of it where I'm now doing some educational content for other architectural photographers or aspiring photographers. And so I want to keep building that up. That's definitely still more on the side as I build up, the actual photography end of things. But I enjoy helping people. I enjoy teaching and creative stuff that goes along with the teaching side of things. But right now I feel like I'm just at the beginning and going up and up. And so I truly feel like I can do this for another 15, 20 years and continue to get better at it, continue to make more money, continue to get excited about it, and actually build a career that has a legacy.
You said you're doing side work too. Are you still I think you probably still have the hustle mindset. Is that pretty important, enjoying it and producing things you are proud of?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right now I have 3 tiers to my current business model, right? So I have photography, which is architects, interior designers, contractors hiring me to photograph completed spaces, buildings, projects. I have the education side where I create online resources for other photographers that, want to learn the creative photography side, but also the business side of this industry. And then I have this third tier, which is kind of a weird, unique thing, which is relicensing photos for other people. So I learned this back in the BMX days where, I would go to photograph X Games and we'd use some of the photos on our website at the ride site, but then Red Bull, Monster, DC Shoes, Fox Clothing, whoever, they would also want photos of their riders to post on their social media, to post on their website, to put in an ad or whatever, right? And so I was able to relicense the photos to other companies. And I've taken that same mindset and realized that this is a big part of what I do now in this industry where, let's say I take a photo of a kitchen for an architect. Well, the contractor might also want that photo. The cabinet maker might want the photo. The tile company, similar to the one that I worked for, might want the photo. The faucet company, the appliance company, all these other companies might want that same photo. And so I can relicense them to other companies. And so I do that with my images, but I've also kind of developed this weird skill of like learning how to identify what products are in the photo, who at that company I can reach out to cold pitch them to see if they want the photo, and what to say so that they pay attention to my email and it doesn't just get thrown to trash. And so I now work with other photographers who send me their photos, and I work as a middleman, as like licensing agent, as I call it, to farm out their photos and relicense their photos to other companies. So photographer in California sends me their photos from a photo shoot. I try to sell them to the faucet company, the window company, the tile company, the appliance company, those kind of things. And then we split the money. So I've got three of those components to my business now. And so that's kind of the hustle mindset that's still baked into me. I also, like in September this year, I'm speaking at a conference. I'm not getting paid for it, but again, I love teaching. I love sharing this knowledge. I love, talking about the things that I'm passionate about. And so in terms of like the dollar amount, I think, the architectural photography is still going to be like the main pillar of everything. And that's where I really want to keep growing. Like I get excited about getting better at that and shooting cooler projects and things like that. But the other two components are kind of like the side hustles that are still kind of going on in tandem right now. Outside of that, I have zero desire to do any other kind of BMX work, headshots, real estate stuff, like event photography. There's zero other interest outside of that because A, I've got a family, B, I live in Hawaii, and there's not enough hours in the day or energy in my body to do all the things that I want to do in terms of going free diving, going hiking, going explore new beaches, being with my family, playing pickleboard, going paddleboarding. Like I have so many hobbies and things now that I love doing that, I don't have that good problem to have, if you want to call it a problem, but I can't do all the things that I want to do on a regular basis anyway. So I'm not going to fill that time and waste that energy on like little side hustle stuff just to make a few extra bucks here and there. It's not worth it.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, even with me at work, I have all these interests. Like maybe I want to ride my bike again or film these videos, and it's just sometimes it's hard to balance. But it's a good problem to have where you decide where to focus your energy on. I just have one more question. We can wrap up. But for all the people in BMX or have the passion for filming in BMX, like or anything, whatever passion they have, what advice would you give them to like build up a career for? Like just a short advice for them to build up and make something for themselves?
Yeah, good question. It has to be a very broad answer because things have changed so much from when I was in the BMX industry that I have no idea how that industry even works or operates anymore. Like I don't know what career opportunities or money making opportunities even exist in BMX anymore. So I can't talk specific to that, but I think just in general, again, this is coming from me and this is like my experience and I can only share from my experience. But like I said, putting yourself out there, waving your hands in the air, like letting people know this is what I do. This is what I'm capable of. Can I help you do the same thing? And you pay me to do it. Like I'm a big believer on letting the world know your intentions, before I got the job at Ride Magazine, I told everybody under the sun that my goal was to work with that magazine. Anybody that I encountered, I told them that was my goal. That was my dream. Right. And I was able to make it happen. When I put that Facebook video out and said, I'm about to be a dad and I need a job, so please share this video, I was telling the world, like, hey, I'm open to opportunities, Had I not done that, who knows if I would have gotten the opportunity that I did. And so I think, that whole quote of like, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. I think that's the quote is true, right? Like you have to be prepared, but you have to like see the opportunities, and the more opportunities you give yourself, more opportunities you give yourself. And so, just put yourself out there and don't be afraid to kind of wave your hands in the air.
It's really good advice because you never know. Like even with me, like I just made these videos. When I first started, sure, I had like intention of like making something for myself in BMX and videos. But like once I got older, it was more like like I quit for a while, but it was like I kind of want to find a job, so I'm going to restart this, and it kind of grew. And then before I knew it, I had a lot of pro writers and companies who like watched my stuff, and I was like,
that's crazy because I just kind of like made this content. I didn't think much of it and put myself out there. So I think that's good. And listening to your story was like, I was really interested in, like, I really like hearing your story because, I think I can relate to it and a lot of other people can relate to it, but you really hustled hard, put your name out there and kind of took opportunities to, do what you wanted to do at that time. And, my life changed, everybody's life changes. So your life will evolve, but it's, the skills you learn here, how to apply them to here. And, that's what I'm trying to do now. And a lot of people we're trying to do. Yeah. So I think that's all the questions that I have. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it, man. I think we covered a lot. I appreciate you taking the time to ask me the questions, and hopefully you got something out of it. And whoever watches or listens, I hope they get something out of it as well.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you being on this. Actually, this is only my second interview or podcast I'm doing so far. I have a few more lined up, but you know, I think one of my weak points is like talking to new people. So I'm hoping, I can learn about people's stories, I can showcase their stories to the world and I can be a bit better at speaking. I don't know what's going to come out from this. I just want to, I think I have a good opportunity to make some connections and meet new people. So
yeah, well, I wish you the best, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for talking with me.
ZZ Designs is one dude in his basement bringing back the 90s style design, heavily inspired by motocross and the early FMX scene. And he's just doing it for the love of the game. That's why I gotta support the homie on this one. Hit him up for any designs on Instagram at ZZ Designs.